If you're charging $40 an hour and wondering why you're exhausted, the problem isn't your effort, it's your pricing logic. Today, I'm breaking down what online tutors actually charge in 2026, real numbers by tier, and I'm going to show you how where you fall on that spectrum is almost entirely determined by one thing: how specific you're willing to get about what you teach. If you're just starting out or you've been tutoring for a while and feel like you're stuck at a rate that isn't really working for your life, then this video is for you. Or if you're wondering, you're just getting started in tutoring and you're wondering, how much do I even charge? What do I start with? This video is for you. I'm Daisy Luce, and I help others build a flexible, profitable online tutoring business like me, specifically by learning how to specialize in a high demand tutoring niche. Let's dive in. So the real reason most tutors charge less than they should is not because they lack experience, and it's not because the market won't support higher rates. It's fear. It's fear. Fear of putting a number out there and having someone say no, or fear of seeming too expensive, fear of losing a client before you even have them. That's a big one, right? And so what happens? You pick a number that feels safe, a number that won't scare anyone away, and you tell yourself you'll raise it later once you have more clients, once you have more experience, once you feel more confident. But you never do it because you always have that internal fear. But later almost never comes because the rate you start at becomes the rate you're stuck at. And then you end up working more hours than you want for less than you should be making, wondering why this isn't working the way you hoped, and wondering why you feel so exhausted. The mindset shift that changed things for me was realizing I wasn't selling my time. I was running a business. And in a business, your price isn't just a number, it signals the value of what you're offering. When you price too low, you don't just leave money on the table, you actually make it harder to attract serious clients. Seriously. Families paying for test prep or college essay or a reading specialist want to work with someone who knows what they're doing. And a $30 hour rate doesn't signal expertise to anyone. So let's talk actual numbers. When I look at the online tutoring landscape right now, I see three distinct tiers, and they're pretty clear. Tier 1 is general academic help, like your homework support, study skills, general subject review. If you're just getting started and you haven't built a specific approach or a specialty yet, this is probably where you'll land. And the going rate in this area is somewhere between $50 to $75 an hour. Now, I want to say something important here. $75 is the floor if you're working independently. But if you're starting out through one of the tutoring companies like Wisent, Varsity Tutors, something like that, you may need to accept a lower rate for a little while as you get established. Those platforms take a cut, but they can be a good way to build your reputation and get your first few clients when you're brand new if you don't have any other leads elsewhere. And that's fine. It's just a phase. But if you're running your own independent tutoring business, or when you move to that point, $75 an hour really should be the minimum that you charge. Maybe 50, but I would never go any lower than that. And you really want to bump it up as soon as you can and start figuring out ways to move out of that tier 1, or you will burn out. So what's tier 2? Well, tier 2 is where things start to get interesting. This is the subject specialist level. We're talking $75 to $150 an hour, and the difference here isn't just that you know your subject well, it's that you've developed your own approach to teaching it. You have a system, you have materials, you have a method that gets results. And this doesn't have to be super deep and intense. For me, I tutor AP math. So what does that mean? I fall in that range as a specialist, and I have very specific ways of teaching some of the material or tutoring it and supporting a student when they come to me and say they're confused about something. I have worked with enough students over time that I recognize where the typical pitfalls are and the language that is used in teaching the subject, that I'm able to alter that and quickly help bring them up to a much better understanding of the topic. And I've done this for so long that in AP Math subjects, it really doesn't matter what it is. I can capture them quite quickly and get them up to speed. Oftentimes, that's what students will say to me at the end of a lesson is, "I don't understand how you're able to teach this to me so fast." I always feel so happy when we're done with tutoring because I come in feeling frustrated, extremely confused after being in class all week, and then you turn it around in like 10 minutes. And that is my specialty. That's my expertise. And that's what I'm able to bring students just from doing this for years and recognizing where those hiccups are for a majority of students. So that's what separates tier two from tier one. Anyone can tutor a subject, but not everyone has a method. And then there's tier three. This is the niche expertise. SAT test prep, ACT test prep, college essay coaching, college application help, reading specialist, math facts specialist. This is where rates go from 150 to 225 and beyond. I'm serious. If you're thinking like, "What? Who would pay that?" Lots of people will pay that. Sometimes these niche expertise areas are not long term. They are there to provide a goal. They have a goal in mind, and they can be taught in a in a smaller amount of time or in a constrained amount of time, a set limit. And so the price can go up because of that. The reason these rates are justified is that the stakes are different too. When a family hires a general homework tutor, they want their kid to feel less stressed about school and do better all around through the whole year. But when a family hires an SAT specialist, they are looking for a score improvement or a certain score a lot of times, or they're hopeful for it. They know exactly what a 100-point improvement on one of those tests could mean for admissions between one college and another, and they are willing to pay for that outcome for someone who is a specialist in that field and knows exactly what they're doing. And that's the key shift in tier three. You're not selling an hour of your time. You're selling a specific outcome and you're helping students achieve these grand dreams or trying to get them there. No promises, but you are helping them move the needle and shoot for the stars. And it's exciting. So, what actually moves the needle on your rate? I've been doing this for 20 years. And when I look at the tutors I know who charge the most, and the ones who are stuck undercharging, it really comes down to four things that I see. First, how specialized are you? This is the biggest one. How are you selling yourself? The more specific you are about what you teach and who you help, the higher your ceiling. Generic tutors have a generic rate, but specialists have a specialist rate. Second, demand. What's the demand in the subject and in the specialty that you're trying to tutor? Again, going back to specifically what I do test prep, I do college essays. The stakes are high and the need is great. The demand is huge. You're talking about every junior just about in in America, every junior needs to take the SAT or ACT if they're planning on going to college, and then they need help writing their college essays or they need editing, they need ideas, all that kind of stuff for the essays. So it's a huge demand, a really big field. Parents aren't shopping around for the cheapest option. They're looking for someone who can actually help and again, knows what they're doing. Third, your own program or system. I keep coming back to this because I do think it's underrated. I think people don't know how to sell themselves enough. If you just show up and work through whatever the student brings, That's tutoring. If you have a structured approach, your own materials, a method you've developed over time, that's a program. And that's how you have to position yourself so that the customer and the client understands what you're actually providing, because you're providing way more than just a little bit of help for an hour session. Fourth, and lastly, where you're working has a lot to do with the price that you're able to charge. And I don't just mean physically in the location. If you're in person, that's one thing that has to do with the area that you live in, but also where you're tutoring online. Like we talked about, are you on one of these marketplace platforms? Then your rate is limited by the website structure and their cut, or by what other tutors in your physical area are charging. If you're online and independent, your own clients, your own scheduling, your own payments, there is no ceiling. You're not capped by someone else's pricing model or by the market in your own location. So, practically speaking, what do you do with all of this? Well, figure out which tier you're in right now and which tier you're building toward. Be honest with yourself. If you're doing general homework help and haven't developed a specific method yet, then you're in tier one. That's not a bad thing, it's just a starting point. Set a rate that feels slightly uncomfortable, not terrifying, but not comfortable either. If you set your rate and you feel totally fine about it, it's probably too low. A little bit of, oh, I hope this works is normal. That's not a sign you're overcharging. That is a sign you're taking yourself seriously. When you are 75 to 80% full, raise your rates for new clients. You don't even need to announce a rate change to existing clients if you don't want to. I don't do that. I grandfather all of my clients in at whatever price point they started with me at forever. You just start the next person at the new rate, and you keep doing that until your calendar fills up or until it gets to that 75, 85, 80% again, and you raise it again. The market will tell you if your rate is too high. If you put yourself out there at a new rate and no one's calling you back, texting you back, that's feedback. Empty spots at a low rate are a much bigger problem than empty spots at a high rate, because at a low rate, you're working hard and still not making what you need, but at a higher rate, you have room to adjust. So to recap, there are 3 tiers in online tutoring right now: general academic help, subject specialists with their own program, and niche experts in high stakes categories like SAT, ACT, reading specialist, things like that. If you're independent, $50 an hour, I'm going to say 50 is the absolute minimum you should be charging. You are worth that for sure. And the path upward runs through specialization. If you're not sure yet which direction to specialize in, I do have other videos on the subjects I do, as I already mentioned: SAT, ACT, college essay writing, college application essay writing, and I'll link some of those below. If you're specifically interested in SAT tutoring, that's the that's my wheelhouse. That's what I'm building out right now. And I do have a free SAT math formula cheat sheet down below. Grab it, look through it, see if it looks like something that you would want to learn more about. And if so, continue to follow me here. Link, subscribe below, and I'll see you next time. Happy tutoring, friend.